The Starbound Legacy, Humanity's Ascension. Author The Archive of Sol Era, Post-Superluminal Age, 214 PS. Subject: The First Accordance. Prologue: The Tear in the Canvas. It began not with a roar but with a shiver. For centuries, humanity had looked up at the night sky and seen a cage. The speed of light was the iron bar, the insurmountable law of physics that kept the species bound to a single, lonely star. But the human spirit is nothing if not stubborn. When the Elara Vance drive finally engaged on the UNS horizon, it didn't break the laws of physics. It negotiated a loophole. The fabric of space-time didn't tear, it folded. Like heavy velvet bunched in a fist, the universe compressed in front of the ship and expanded behind it. Elara Vance, the granddaughter of the drive's architect and the appointed ambassador for the Terran coalition, stood on the observation deck. She felt the transition in her teeth, a subtle vibration that tasted like copper and ozone. The stars outside, usually distinct points of piercing light, smeared into streaks of indigo and violent violet. They were no longer navigating distance, they were navigating causality. Status? Her voice was steady, though her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. Stable, came the voice of Captain Halloway. He was a man carved from granite and patience, but even he was gripping the console rail white-knuckled. We are traversing the void gap. Estimated arrival at the Perseus Arm coordinates in 3 hours. 3 hours. To cross a distance that light would have needed 1,000 years to traverse. Elara looked out at the shifting kaleidoscope of the slipstream. They were going to meet them. The signal had come 5 years ago. A mathematically perfect sequence of prime numbers followed by a star map. It was an invitation, or perhaps a summons. "Prepare the crew," Elara whispered, pressing her hand against the cold transparency of the viewport. "We are about to knock on the door of gods." Chapter 1: The City of Glass and Starlight. The exit from Slipstream was violent. The horizon shuddered, groaning as it was spat back into normal space. The nausea hit Elara instantly, a sensation of falling and spinning simultaneously known as transition sickness. She swallowed the bile and looked up. The bridge fell silent. In front of them was not a planet, but a construct. It was a ring world, a halo of impossible engineering circling a dying, white dwarf star. But it wasn't made of metal. It shimmered with a pearlescent opacity, like opal. Towers the size of continents spiked outward from the ring, defying gravity, connected by filaments of light that pulsed with the rhythm of a heartbeat. "My God," Halloway breathed. "The Aethelgard," Elara said, the name given in the decoded transmission. "The seat of the Council." Sensors screamed as thousands of vessels appeared on the tactical display. They were diverse beyond comprehension. Some looked like jagged shards of obsidian. Others were fluid, shifting bubbles of mercury. Some resembled massive biomechanical nautiluses swimming through the vacuum. "We are being hailed," the comms officer announced, his voice trembling. It's not audio, ma'am. It's data. Direct neural interface packets. Put it on the main screen. Translate to text," Elara ordered. The screen didn't flicker. Instead, colors bled into the air of the bridge, forming a holographic projection. A geometric shape, constantly folding in on itself, a tesseract hovered before them. "Identify, species human, origin Sol 3, purpose, adjudication." The voice wasn't a sound, it was a vibration in their skulls. "This is Ambassador Elara Vance of the Terran Coalition," she spoke, standing tall, smoothing her formal navy blue tunic. "We come in peace, responding to your summons." Peace is a theoretical concept. Compliance is required. Docking vector authorized. Prepare for bioscan and cultural flaying. "Cultural flaying?" Halloway looked at Elara, alarmed. "A translation error, I hope," Elara said, though a cold knot tightened in her stomach. "Take us in, Captain." Slowly. As the horizon drifted toward one of the massive docking spires, Elara watched the traffic of the galaxy. She saw ships offloading cargo that looked like captured nebulas. She saw creatures walking on the hull of a passing freighter, unaffected by the vacuum. The scale of it crushed her. Humanity had thought itself the center of the story. Here, they were barely a footnote in a library that had been burning for 1 billion years. Chapter 2. The Hall of Echoes. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor that smelled of ozone, cinnamon, and wet earth. The gravity was slightly lower than Earth's, giving Elara's steps a buoyant, dreamlike quality. She was accompanied by her diplomatic detail, 2 xenolinguists, a biologist, and a small security team armed only with ceremonial stun batons. The Council had forbidden kinetic weaponry. Waiting for them was a creature that defied terrestrial taxonomy. It stood on 4 spindly legs that ended in points of light rather than feet. Its body was a slender column of shifting, translucent jelly, within which floated organs that glowed softly. It had no face, only a series of floating rings above its shoulders that hummed. "I am Kael'thas," the creature's voice projected from a device on its chest. The translation was smooth, synthetic but polite. "I am the custodian of new arrivals. You smell of carbon and anxiety." "We are adjusting," Elara said, trying not to stare at the floating organs. "Thank you for receiving us." "The Council awaits. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not bare your teeth. It is a sign of aggression in 14 sectors. Do not excrete fluids on the floor." Elara nodded, suppressing a hysterical urge to laugh. "Understood." They were led through the station. The architecture was fluid. Walls shifted to accommodate the size of the beings passing through. They passed a group of hulking, crustacean-like beings who clicked their claws at the humans, a sound the translator tagged as derisive laughter. They passed beings of pure energy contained within containment suits, who radiated a heat so intense Elara's skin prickled. The surroundings were a sensory overload. The light shifted from amber to deep blue to a color the human eye couldn't process, resulting in a headache-inducing gray shimmer. The air tasted different in every sector, metallic, floral, rotting, sterile. Finally, they reached the Great Hall. It was a cavernous sphere, the walls lined with thousands of pods. In the center, suspended by anti-gravity fields, floated the High Council. There were 5 of them. One looked like a massive ancient tree rooted in pure light. One was a swarm of nanites forming a constantly changing face. One was reptilian, with scales of gold and eyes that held no pupil. One was an aquatic being in a globe of water. And the last was a shadow, a silhouette cut out of reality itself. "Humanity," the shadow spoke. The voice felt like ice water poured down Elara's spine. "You have breached the light barrier. You are children playing with flint in a dry forest." Elara stepped forward to the floating platform. She felt the eyes of 1,000 species on her. The weight of history, of wars, of art, of love, of the atomic bomb, and the cure for cancer, rested on her shoulders. "We are children," Elara admitted, her voice amplified by the acoustics of the sphere. "But children learn. We have traveled the dark to stand in the light. We ask for a seat at the table, to learn and to contribute." The reptilian hissed. "Contribute? Your history is a tapestry of blood. You consume your own planet. You war over gods and dirt. Why should we not quarantine you until you extinct yourselves?" The holograms flickered to life around Elara. Scenes from Earth's history played out in giant, undeniable clarity. The trenches of World War I, the mushroom clouds over Japan, the burning Amazon rainforests of the 21st century. But also the riots, the genocides, the cruelty. A murmur went through the hall. To a galactic community that had evolved past resource scarcity, human violence was distinctively horrifying. "That is our past," Elara said, her voice trembling but gaining strength. "We cannot deny it. We are a species of paradox. We destroy, yes, but we also rebuild. Look at the data." She gestured, and her own holographic files uploaded. She showed them the reconstruction of the coral reefs, the unification of the global parliament, the music of Bach and Beethoven, the act of a soldier carrying a wounded enemy to safety. "We are capable of great darkness," Elara said, meeting the gaze of the shadow. "But that means our capacity for light is a choice, not biology. We choose to be better. Is that not the definition of civilization?" The tree being rustled, a sound like wind through autumn leaves. "Poetic, but irrelevant. Words are wind. We require a test." Chapter 3. The Trial of Entropy. The test was not a puzzle or a fight, it was a simulation. but one so immersive that the mind could not distinguish it from reality. Elara found herself alone. The horizon, her crew, the council, gone. She was standing on a desolate, rocky plateau. The sky was a bruised purple. In front of her was a machine. It was a jagged, ugly thing, leaking radiation. Attached to it were tubes leading to 2 containment cells. In the left cell, a human child. In the right cell, a larval creature of the swarm, the insectoid race that had mocked them earlier. A voice boomed from the sky. "The reactor is critical. It will detonate in 2 minutes. You have power to shield only 1 cell. The other will be atomized. Choose." Elara's breath hitched. It was the trolley problem, weaponized on a galactic scale. Panic clawed at her throat. Save her own kind? It was biological imperative. The swarm larva was monstrous, chittering, terrifying. The human child was crying, pressing small hands against the glass. "This is barbaric," she screamed at the sky. 1 minute 30 seconds, choose. Elara ran to the machine. She looked at the readouts. Alien symbols, but the math was universal. Energy flow, shield output. Logic dictated she save the human. Politics dictated she save the alien to prove impartiality. But Elara was not just a politician. She was an engineer's granddaughter. She ignored the shield selector. She ripped the panel off the reactor core. Her hands burned as she touched the hot metal. She didn't try to direct the shield. She tried to dampen the explosion. "Come on," she gritted out, sweat stinging her eyes. She rerouted the shield energy into the reactor coolant loop. It wasn't designed for that. It would overload the interface. It would kill her. If she dampened the explosion, the blast radius would reduce. The shields wouldn't be needed if the bomb was a dud. 30 seconds. Warning. Lethal radiation levels detected. Elara felt her skin blistering. She screamed in pain as she twisted the final coupling, forcing the 2 energy streams to collide, neutralizing the reaction. "I choose neither," she yelled. "I choose to stop the fire." The machine whined, glowed blinding white, and then silence. Chapter 4. The Verdict. Elara gasped, falling to her knees. She was back in the Great Hall. The pain was gone, but the phantom memory of the burning metal lingered on her fingertips. The silence in the hall was absolute. The swarm representative, a towering insectoid with chitinous armor, clicked its mandibles. It floated down from its pod, approaching Elara. The security team tensed, but Elara waved them down. The creature leaned close, its compound eyes refracting Elara's reflection 1,000 times. The scenario had no solution. The swarm clicked. It was designed to measure bias. You were supposed to save your kin, or save mine to appease us. "I don't accept no-win scenarios," Elara panted, wiping sweat from her brow. "And I don't trade lives." The swarm creature straightened up and turned to the council. Logic, irrational. Preservation instinct, defective. Altruism, critical levels. The shadow spoke again. "You sacrificed yourself to save an enemy and a stranger. This is rare." The tree being shimmered. "Many species achieve flight, few achieve wisdom. The humans are volatile, dangerous, but they possess a spark we have not seen in an age, the spark of improbability." The council deliberated. Colors flashed between them, a rapid-fire debate occurring at the speed of light. Finally, the golden reptile spoke. "The Terran coalition is granted probationary status. You will not have a seat on the High Council. You will have a voice in the Assembly. You will be watched. One act of aggression, one violation of the Accord, and your system will be isolated for 1,000 cycles." Elara let out a breath she felt she had been holding for centuries. "However," the shadow added, "we require your engineers. The method you used to stabilize the reactor, it was mathematically ugly, but effective. We have forgotten how to improvise. Perhaps you can teach us how to fix things when the manual fails." Chapter 5. The First Exchange. The months following the acceptance were a blur of activity. The Horizon remained docked at the Aethelgard, serving as the temporary embassy. Humanity didn't just join the council, they crashed into it. The cultural exchange was chaotic. Human music, specifically jazz, became inexplicably popular among a species of silicon-based crystals who communicated through vibration. They found the syncopation intoxicatingly disorderly. Human cuisine was less successful. Most species found capsaicin to be a literal neurotoxin, but coffee became a highly regulated luxury commodity for a hyperactive species of birdmen. Elara found herself walking the hanging gardens of the station with Kael'thas, the jelly-like custodian who had first greeted them. "You are unhappy," Kael'thas observed, its lights dimming to a sympathetic soft blue. "Not unhappy," Elara corrected. "Overwhelmed. We are the small fish in a shark tank. We are technologically backward. Our art is primitive to you. Our philosophy is thousands of years behind yours." "Technologically, yes," Kael'thas agreed. "But you possess something else. We call it the chaos variable." "That sounds like an insult." "It is a compliment." Kael'thas slid along the path. "Look at this garden. Every plant here was genetically engineered for perfection. It is beautiful, but it is static. It does not evolve because it does not need to struggle." Kael'thas stopped and pointed a translucent limb at a small, scraggly flower growing out of a crack in the pavement, a dandelion brought accidentally on the boots of the human crew. "That," Kael'thas said, "that is humanity. You grow where you are not supposed to. You survive where you should die. The Galactic Council has been stagnant for 10,000 years. We have solved all our problems, and so we have stopped dreaming. You are nothing but problems, and so you are nothing but dreams." Elara looked at the dandelion. It was yellow, defiant, and ugly compared to the bioluminescent orchids around it. But it was real. "We're going to shake things up, aren't we?" Elara smiled. "I suspect," Kael'thas's internal organs pulsed with amusement, "that we will never have a quiet day again." Epilogue. The view from the edge. Elara stood on the observation deck of the horizon, preparing for the journey back to Earth to deliver the news. The treaty was signed. The trade routes were opening. The first alien delegation, a group of inquisitive aquatic scholars, was already in the stasis tanks below, ready to see the blue oceans of Earth. She looked out at the galaxy. It was no longer a cold, empty void. It was a neighborhood. A terrifying, complicated, vast, and beautiful neighborhood. Captain Holloway joined her. "Course set for Sol. The full drive is primed." "Take us home, Captain," Elara said. "What do we tell them?" Holloway asked, looking at the swirling stars. "When they ask what it's like out here." Elara thought of the Shadow Council, the insectoid philosophers, the music of the crystals, and the trial that had almost killed her. "Tell them," Elara said softly, "that the universe is not empty, it is waiting, and tell them." She paused, watching the light of the station fade as the drive began to spin up. "Tell them we are not alone. And for the first time in history, we are going to have to grow up." The stars blurred, the velvet folded, and humanity jumped into its future. End of archive file 001 Alpha